This meeting is being recorded. Alert. Zoom meeting.
Hi, everybody. I'm sure people are still flitting in as they always do. Um, thanks everybody for being able to come. Um, this one is kind of special because, hey, it's the end of the year and it's the one where we celebrate the International Day of Persons with Disabilities. I mean, it was yesterday, but this is as close as we can get. Um, so, um, Um, the International Day of Persons with Disabilities has been going on since was first created in 1992. I always have to look up when it was because I'm like, I know it's like not super long time ago, but it's, been around for a bit. And every year they have a different theme. Um, and th this year's theme is the um, fostering disability inclusive societies for advancing social progress, and the having inclusive societies. This really starts with education, because if you don't have inclusion in your education, then people with disabilities can't get the necessary skills to be included in other parts of life. Um, and we thought it would be a good focus to talk about cognitive disabilities, because a lot of times things aren't mentioned about cognitive disabilities, and the great thing about a lot of the stuff you can do for helping out people with cognitive disabilities is if you just do it, it will help everybody. And some people don't even know they have like a an issue, and um, just doing making things available can make their you know lives and getting their education a heck of a lot easier. Um, and some people don't even identify that they have an issue, or maybe they're just having sort of a temporary problem or whatever. And if those supports are there, then they can um, thrive. So, thought it would be a good thing to talk about when the theme this year is all about inclusion. So, I guess I will hand things over to Sam, because she's got some ideas to talk about.
Yeah, thank you, Karen, and thank you to every one of you who made the time to join us today. Like Karen said, the International Day of Persons with Disabilities was actually yesterday, but we try not to disrupt the schedule with which we meet you, and we also want to celebrate this day with you, which is the reason why we chose today's meeting as the day when we will celebrate together. And the way we wanted to celebrate it together is to recognize one particular aspect of education, which is cognition and how you cognitively engage with learning. Like Karen mentioned, it's special because there are conditions that need accommodations. We are not ignoring those. There could be ADHD, autism, dyslexia, dyscalculia, dysgraphia, a whole lot of traumatic injuries, brain injuries, so many conditions that will specifically require accommodations. But over and above all that, we definitely know that situationally, a lot of us need cognitive support in several ways, in several situations. And so that's the reason why cognitive support is doubly meaningful, both in the universal support for education uh, way and from a accommodation or accessibility support way. So what we plan to do today is to, by way of agenda, we want to just explore a little bit about how each of us has a I mean, we all have diverse minds and how minds function differently and what implication that has for education. And then we wanted to actually engage with you and like actually have a discussion across different facets of education, namely the curriculum, the instruction, the assessment. So that's the way we want to go about it. And what we planned to do is to give a little bit of a handle about what D12 Brightspace offers in terms of enabling and supporting customers in providing that cognitive support to learners. As well, some of the supports are for instructors as well to be able to teach with cognitive ease. And we would love to hear from you what you feel, what you think about cognitive support in your campuses, and how do you use these features or not? Which are the features that you think are missing or could be added to Brightspace to make it easier for all of you to engage in education? So that's the plan we have. So much of the time, we will be having discussions as we go along. So to stop at the first agenda item, designing for different minds, I'm going to throw at you a picture which has 7 headshots of very famous people. And I am going to ask you, these are all unique minds. I'm going to give you the names of all the people and ask you if any of you know why or any of their minds is unique, what was special about them in a cognitive way. The pictures are of Isaac Newton, Leonardo da Vinci, Thomas Edison, Winston Churchill, Albert Einstein, Agatha Christie, and Pablo Picasso. I'll give a minute or so, and Aggie will follow the chat. If anybody's writing anything in the chat, why do you think these people have unique minds? Is there anything you've heard or known about these people? And Albert Einstein was dyslexic as well. Um, so I'm going to tell you what I know, and you can verify with what you can recall. Isaac Newton was socially withdrawn, and he was obsessively focused. Leonardo da Vinci had very scattered attention, what we would call as ADD these days, and he had restless curiosity. So you see, there is a complementing facet of that condition that really helps them excel. Thomas Edison was impulsive, but he was also a relentless experimenter. You know, the stories about how many times he tried to invent the bulb. Winston Churchill was unpredictable, but he was also very driven and he could achieve whatever he wanted. Albert Einstein actually had delayed speech. He struggled a lot in school, but he was a genius in thinking. We all know that. And very interestingly, Agatha Christie had difficulty with reading and writing. Can you believe that? Because she's such a great author, she dictated her novels. But of course, she had phenomenal creativity. And Pablo Picasso was unable to read or write fluently, probably because he always thought in pictures. So, as you can see, each of these famous people had something or the other to do with their cognitive learning behaviors. We really wonder whether at the times that they went to school, there was any way in which they would have been supported as students. But going forward, One thing we know is that each of us has a fingerprint that's unique, and no two people have the same fingerprint. It's also believed that the way people learn, or the way each of us learns, is as unique as our fingerprints. We all know through the inclusive design paradigm and through the universal design for learning approach that one size doesn't fit all, and we always try to create flexible teaching and learning systems so that we can try to accommodate as far as possible. One size fits one. And in this context, if we look at supporting learner diversity, I'm going to talk through three pictures on the screen. How conventionally learners are supported, what is accommodation, and what is universal support? Because we are talking today about cognitive accommodations and cognitive support universally for anybody that would need, whether through an intersectional reason or for a situational or temporary reason. So conventionally, what happens first, let me tell you what the pictures are depicting. So there's a playground with, I think, soccer or football game going on. And then there's a hedge that's like opaque. And three children are standing on the other side of the hedge and trying to watch the game. Two of the children are shorter than the hedge. In the conventional way of supporting students, in the name of equality, equal support is provided to all students. What happens is unequal outcomes, sorry. And this is depicted in the first picture by making each of these students stand on one equal sized box. Two of them are able to watch the game, but one of them is still below the eyes are below the hedge. In the second picture, we look at accommodation, what accommodation looks like, which is like differentiated support, where we aim to have equal or equitable outcomes. So here, this boy who is the student or whoever, child who is tallest and can see without a box, just stands and watches the game. The child who needs one box is given one box, and the child who is the shortest is given two boxes. So the support is differentiated and everybody is able to watch the game. But how wonderful would it be if, without any support, individualized support, the whole environment is changed such that everybody can watch the game? And that's what's depicted in the third picture by making the hedge lower and also making it see-through so that all the children can watch the game without any extra additional support. So this doesn't mean if you have universal learning systems, accommodation will not be required. The two will coexist, but the idea is about looking out for as much of systemic changes we can make to make possible support systems that can be universal. At this point, I'd like to pause and ask you, what is your experience with cognitive support in your campus? Do learners ask for accommodation? Is there any statistic that you have that shows how many students have asked for accommodations? Is there any proactive support? Do you purchase universal access tools like ReadSpeaker and give it to all the students? What is it like? Any thoughts? Or are there no students asking for cognitive support?
Hi,
Julie?
Sam. Yes.
Julie, how are you?
So good, thank you. So on our side, we actually got a few requests for TTS, so text to speech, such as read speakers. So this is definitely something. It's a need. We got requests for that. We got requests for read aloud, so the browser extension. So that was, I would say, or having an audio track that will be the complement of, not the complement, the same thing as what is being said on the page. So that's the three most common thing we've been requested so far.
Mm-hmm. That's wonderful. So maybe Julie, you could also introduce yourself, like where you're from.
So, Julie Bellil-Boutet, I'm the manager of digital accessibility in learning for the Canada School of Public Service, which is under the government of Canada, federal.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody from educational institutions?
Hi, yes, I work at the Academic Testing Center at the University of Rhode Island, and we do utilize Read Speaker quite often in the
Mhm.
Academic Testing Center, as well as a lot of students who use tech in general to support them while they're taking exams.
Mhm. If we actually think through the tools and features in Brightspace that we use normally, many of those have cognitive implications, although primarily they might have been intended for to support certain disabilities. That's a very interesting way of looking at what we are already doing and discovering how we are, even without our knowledge, supporting for cognitive ease. And so that's one exercise that we will take up just now. But before that, I just wanted to help you recall whenever we do any presentation, we always talk about D2L's accessibility value proposition. We believe that online learning is comprised of technology, content, pedagogy, and also community. So, what we try to do as your education partner is to provide you a platform and related products to make it easier or to support you in creating your curriculum, in delivering your curriculum, in doing your assessments of the knowledge that the learners have acquired, as well as, grading, feedback, all of that, so that you can assess where each student is and make sure that they progress along the path that they have set for themselves to learn. So here's where we want today's discussion to go, in the sense I'm going to remind you of certain features, tools that we offer with Brightspace. You could call them universal design for learning tools, you could call them anything, but uh, and again, we are not going to spend the whole hour talking about it, because if you look at each and every feature and tool and explain them, it's going to take more than an hour. The idea is to just give you a glimpse in 2 to 3 minutes to make you recall or help you recall, oh, these are the things that we do actually with curriculum, or I haven't explored this, or Sam doesn't have this particular thing in her list and we must talk about that, or this is the most impactful thing I have seen in Brightspace. So that's the kind of thinking process I had in mind when we embark upon uh, what we call as the learning journey. The learning journey, today we decided to take it three, uh, along these three components: curriculum, instruction, and assessment. And just for recall, curriculum, by curriculum, I mean content that's taught in a course or a class. And by instruction, I mean how that content is delivered and how learners are kept engaged. And by assessment, I mean how, through grading and any other means, their progress is being measured, and how feedback is offered to them so that they can go back to get content that's relevant, and then again the same cycle keeps on going. So under each of these sections, I'm just going to try to recall some of the features that we offer in Brightspace. So when you look at cognitive support, one of the things that comes up in my mind is accessible HTML authoring. What I have on the screen is a schematic of the HTML editor. There are so many features here that will help with cognitive ease. One of them is that when you add an image, you must add an alt text. And when you add alt text, it not only helps people using screen readers, it also helps people from a different culture that don't understand that image, or people who need reinforcement in multiple modalities. And then there's this wonderful way of choosing the color of the font, which also is very important for, taking care of sensory needs of some students. And then when you format the content with proper headings and then bulleted lists and all other HTML accessibility criteria, you automatically have consistent documents that behave well, not only with assistive technologies, but also are very easy to read, understand, and consume. So in all these ways, our HTML authoring tool helps. As well, there is a checker which helps with detecting if any of these things is not happening, and then to go and edit and correct that. And then we also have HTML templates that allow you as customers to be able to brand your content and to create consistent templates, because consistency is one of the very important criteria for learning with cognitive ease. So making consistent branded templates, which are also accessible, by the way. I think we have HTML 5.0. There is a slide at the end, or two slides at the end, that have many resources listed. One of them is an article about HTML templates and about the editor and other resources. I'm just going back to the list. And then, so HTML is one format that you can author on Brightspace. Again, you can create media content on Brightspace, whether it's audio or video, and it can be auto-captioned, transcript can be automatically generated, and it can be edited. And all of this speaks to not just students with hearing loss, all of this speaks to students from other countries, students trying to learn English, for whom it's a load on their mind already, trying to translate from their language into, or whatever they're seeing in English, into their language to understand. So there are multiple language captions available, and to reinforce in multimodal way, captions help. There are so many ways in which captions help, and transcripts help as well. So I just request you to think through all these features and tools that you've been using with new eyes, with curiosity about how does this serve students to support them cognitively and to make it easier for them to learn. So the next one I'm going to show you is you can upload content in multiple formats. So the platform allows that. So what that means is that you can offer content in multiple formats as per the Universal Design for Learning specifications and or suggestions. And what that does to the student is that they have access to content in formats that they would love to consume. Chunking content is another very important thing for reducing cognitive load. And one of the features that I have chosen is release condition. So there's a little note here about conditionally released. So we don't need to go too deep into the example screenshot that's on the screen. But what we need to understand is that using release conditions, you can do several things to make it easier for students to or learners to consume content. You can release them at different dates, preset dates, so that everything doesn't come and fall on them at the same time. You can also release in such a way that unless they complete one module, they cannot open another one, so that you make sure that they have the understanding, they have the knowledge to go to the next piece of content. There are other things. Like I said, I did not try to give examples for everything, and I haven't even made an exhaustive list. I just wanted to introduce what I mean by cognitive support in curriculum so that we can chat for 5 or 10 minutes about how you find Brightspace enabling you in providing in support to your learners cognitively using these. Or you could talk about something that is not being listed. Or most interestingly, if you think that there is something that we could build, just let us know. Whether it's today or in the form of a pie item later, any which way. So release conditions can also be used for differentiated instruction. What that means is based on different conditions, one of them could be like the performance in a particular assessment. You can provide additional content to that student, whether it could be remedial content or it could be gifted content, depending on the performance, depending on the value of the grade that they got. So that's one way you can help them cognitively progress. And another thing is progressive disclosure. We already referred to it when we spoke about release conditions and, not releasing all the content in one shot in the course. There's another way of progressively releasing information if you use accordions and cards and so many other interactives that are available in content creation systems like Creator Plus. So with this, I think I will move to what is your experience with cognitive support in curriculum? When you create content and offer the content to learners, can you think of some ways in which Brightspace has helped you, or some ways that students in your institution or learners in your organization have found it easier to learn? Or again, like, is there something else that you want us to do?
Oh,
Hi,
excuse me.
Renee. Hello.
Hi.
Hi, Renee.
Our institution
Hmm?
would better than release conditions like AI-driven content specific to a student's needs to
Mm-hmm.
be delivered on a course page. So that if you and I were taking the same course
Mm-hmm.
and your math prereq are recent and mine are ancient, I might be released some different things, but they don't want release conditions. They want it generated.
Mm-hmm. So are you using Lumi,
No,
your
it
institution?
doesn't meet our needs and it's expensive.
Mm-hmm. That's good.
But we have our own resources.
For AI generation
Yeah.
of content? Mm-hmm.
Yes, and we also have another platform.
Mm-hmm. So you have posed a challenge, right?
Yes.
AI is not able to do this. We can take that and we can examine it.
Oh, AI can do it. Lumi doesn't do it that way.
Okay. Mm-hmm. we'll examine that as well, because different environments in different institutions and different minds, again, working in different institutions, can conceive teaching and learning in different ways. And forums like this are precisely for bringing all those minds together and learning from one another. So, do you want to elaborate a little bit more about how that system works and how you already gave an example?
Yes. So you have students in an introductory nursing biology
Mm-hmm.
who are all over the map with their biology interests, which might be negative to 1,000%,
Mm-hmm.
with their prior coursework, like from high school,
Mm-hmm.
with their math abilities, because in science courses, math skills are often what trips a student.
Mm-hmm.
And a print textbook is one thing, and that doesn't interest our designers.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you make it digital and you choose elements of it and skip elements of it,
Mm-hmm.
having a broad range of materials to present what a student needs, that has been what some of our designers and administrators have been working towards for 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
And AI can help that. And
And,
they'd like to see
Mhm.
D2L doing it because we've made a commitment to D2L. But anyway, personally, I
Mhm.
don't want AI near my stuff.
Oh my God.
Um, but I have a job.
Yeah, we are still in that phase, right? It's still
Yeah,
a choice. It's still a choice.
yeah, as a parent, I paid for my kid to have these awesome instructors putting their brains towards teaching my kid,
Mm-hmm.
not AI. But no one feels that way except me. And I can't run the LMS for my own benefit.
Yeah, it's a tricky situation we are all in today. We cannot open any page online without a discussion there about education and AI and all kinds of approaches to either agreeing or not agreeing about using AI.
Here,
Yeah.
oh, here is my accessibility experience with AI.
Mm-hmm.
I asked Google for an elevator entrance to the Blue Line, which is the train to O'Hare. And they gave Google's AI gave me one, and I walked there with my assistive device, and it was not an elevator. It was 2 flights of stairs.
Mm-hmm.
And they hallucinated.
Right.
So that was such an unpleasant experience with my former plane flight that I don't trust it to write courses, but everyone else I work with does. And it needs to, actually, this is pretty much the main push that we have towards cognitive support.
Yeah, there's a lot that AI could do, provided we have control over it. A lot that AI could do to enhance cognitive support and ease in learning. We were thinking of having a altogether separate session, like you would believe that it's going to take the whole hour if we start talking about AI. So we'll have a separate session about specifically about AI and accessibility and what we can do with the platform to support you. For now, is there anybody else that wants to speak to curriculum, or should we go on to instruction? Like creating content.
Sure. Hi, I'm Melody from CNM in Albuquerque, and as you're talking about these things, I'm thinking about a class that I'm building right now in order to train our instructors in Brightspace and just kind of the teaching in general. And I'm thinking a lot of what you're talking about with cognitive support just kind of relates to everything, you know?
Yeah.
And, of course, my dream is that we would never have to like think about accessibility because everything will be accessible. And so as we're building this course for instructors, it has to be in CBE format, which means that they have to be able to go at their own pace. And we have formative assessments that don't apply to their grade, and then we have the summative assessments. And since we're a community college, we have everybody from welders and car mechanics to physicists and ESL, English as a second language. And we just have such a broad variety of instructors, and some of whom don't use computers. And so everything that you're saying about cognitive support like applies. And we also struggle with, for example, the release conditions because we're also building CBE courses for other departments. And they say, oh, but I don't want them to be able to read this information until they've read that information first. But that doesn't fit into the CBE format of having everything available to the students. So I don't have a particular like function that I'm looking for, but I think that all of the things that you're talking about apply to a lot of course design, not only accessibility. And this has been something that I've been preaching for a while, and it's been challenging because there is sometimes I run into resistance when I use the word accessibility. So,
Yeah. So support maybe will be a better word to use. But
yeah.
two things. One is that if the policy or the process or the system doesn't allow for it, is there a way you could revisit that and change that? Because practically, people want some things there and some things not there, right? So it's only the policy that says everything should be available to everybody. You can probably look at that, maybe, because we always take for granted the rules, right? And the other thing is, all of this applies to instructors as well. Like instructors also require cognitive ease, cognitive support, right? Which is where, like, for students, we have the work to do tool, which allows them to keep on top of what they need to submit, executive function support wise. And for instructors, we have a matching quick eval to help them keep track of regardless of which course it is, what are the assignments they need to grade. So all of these, my only request today, through today's session, or our request, is to revisit all that we've been doing for accessibility and then try to find where we've been actually providing cognitive support and which areas need more support and what we can do for that by creating new ways of supporting. AI, of course, is another thing we will examine later. But for now, Melody, can I go on to the instruction part?
Yeah, and there's also some chatter in the chat. I thought I'd
Aggie,
just
can you?
mention that.
Oh yeah, there is like a lot going on
Mhm.
that. So Melody's whatever is given in the chat, Melody already talked about it. And
Yeah.
then there is conversation about release conditions.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's like not liking it, but for some reason, like if some students need extra support, then
Mhm.
giving remedial measures like
Mhm.
extra content
Mhm.
to help those students, then it is a good way of using release conditions. And yeah, from beginning, it's like to your first initial questions, Sam, there were a lot of charts there. Like we have an access department that students must go to first for
Mhm.
requests for accommodations, including cognitive support. That's what Dawn says. And then Melody talking about user panorama.
Mhm.
And some are talking about read speaker, Travis. And then I see a few more charts talking about read speaker, text aid,
Mhm.
Ali. Yeah, that's what we see in the chat.
So that's wonderful, Aggie. And we will definitely look through the chat and then action whatever needs to be actioned and whatever we need to mention in our follow-up email with the recording, we can do that as well. And so just going on now to instruction, there's a lot here that we can do to support. So responsive platform, like giving 24-hour access to content for learning, that's a huge thing for cognitive ease. And giving heads up, like in announcements. So let the student know ahead of time that something is coming and then they need to be ready to do those things. And also calling it out. That's one way in which we can provide cognitive support. Providing motivation. So to keep the learners engaged, there are ways in which you can provide certificates, provide badges. They go a long way in keeping them engaged. We could speak to many of these things with specific reference to disabilities that come in for accommodation, but we could also speak to even I would love to receive a badge, although I haven't officially been diagnosed or accommodated. Everybody will love to receive some kind of pat on the back so that they can engage in learning in a more intimate way. Then there are chats. Chats, of course, help in many ways. They help in sharing emotions as well with peers, as well as sharing knowledge skills. So, one of the ways you can chat, which is similar to social media chats, is activity feed, where the instructor can post something like a question and students can contribute. And everywhere multimedia is allowed, and any video that's created or added is automatically, not automatically, like can be auto captioned. Discussions is another tool like that, where specific topics can be brought up and then there can be discussion around that. There's one more thing called So we have a visual table of contents, and in the visual table of contents, there's a feature called self-monitoring progress. Like what I have on the screen is a screenshot of a visual table of contents where you have cards showing the different modules, and you also have a progress bar for each one of them with text accompanying saying 3 of 5 topics completed, 3 of 7 topics completed, 2 of 7 topics completed. So this again helps the learner to feel happy, feel stressed, stressed in a good way to go and do the modules that are not done, and also be self-aware of what needs to be done for completing the course. There are other things like intelligent agents. There is no single example. There are so many examples. At the end, in this last slide, we have actually a whole course about intelligent agents that we've developed along with a customer. Intelligent agents are a great way of making students feel included and also reminding them, um, patting them on the back, all kinds of things. And it's been proven that intelligent agents can increase participation, increase engagement, increase even, success, student success. And there are so many other things like recorded lectures, providing recorded lectures to learners for listening again helps in several ways. If I didn't sleep properly last night and I couldn't follow the lecture during the day, I might want to listen to it again. Or maybe if I'm a student with English as second language, I might want to listen to it more than once or go back and listen to certain portions. So, any which way it's recorded, whether it's on Zoom or Teams or virtual classroom, providing recorded lectures is another good way of uh, doing cognitive support during instruction. There are so many others like live captioning and all that, but I want to pause here. And I've also mentioned on the side about reading and writing support, and I've mentioned Read Speaker. The reason why I'm doing that is while there are several tools that can be provided by the accommodations office as specific accommodations to students, tools like ReadSpeaker are provided to everybody across the institution. So there is no need for a student to declare any disability or to ask. Sometimes I wouldn't know that I need it, but if I have it, then I'm able to perform better. So that's where these tools come in. There's a lot that I can say about ReadSpeaker as well, because it's a mini house of all kinds of support for language, for fonts, font sizes, for focus, all kinds of features are there. But I'm just going to go to the next slide for a discussion on what is your experience with cognitive support and instruction, like during course delivery, whether it's online and you're using intelligent agents and badges, or it is like synchronous and you're using other methods. How do you keep students feeling like it's easy for them to learn, and how do you keep them engaged? Is there something that stands out when it comes to Brightspace features? Is there something that you would want us to build? In the interest of time, I'll just complete the assessment part as well, and then we can have some time combining both. So in assessment, again, there are so many features, but what I'm bringing up is one of them is the way in which we can allow learners to complete assignments in the formats that they want to. Looking at the essential requirement of each assignment, learners can be allowed to submit it as a video or as a text or whatever, text document or whatever. But the platform should allow for those things to be uploaded. And that's where I'm calling out that Brightspace allows, but it's for the instructors to be able to create assignments that allow for multiple, or and in the assignment allow for multiple format submissions. Again, feedback is a very important thing in helping learners understand where they failed or where they did well so that they can do the next assessments well. So feedback can be provided in multiple formats. It can be provided as text on the screenshot that's there on the screen now. You can see that it's text is possible, audio is possible, video is possible, and you can also link to something else. Multiple ways of giving feedback allow the instructor and the learner to be able to engage in that transfer of feedback in a more acceptable, easy manner. And then, of course, things that I'm not going into because everybody knows are special access, where you allow learners to have more time or allow them to submit late or give us absolutely different set of questions or assessments to some groups. Accommodations would be, again, setting those up for the entire term. All of these, and then rubrics in evaluations, again, provide a structured way in which the instructor can communicate the rules to the learners, and the learners know the rules of the game, and they're able to perform in such a way as to optimize their marks. I mentioned Quick Eval already. This is a nice way for instructors to keep on top of what are the assignments they need to grade. With that, I'm just going to open it up to both delivery and assessment. Is there anything that you would like to share or any ideas for us to take on? Or any tools that you use? Yes, Catherine. Hi,
Hey Sam, it's been some time. How are you?
I'm good. I saw your email.
Yeah, I finally didn't have an overlapping meeting at this time, so I thought I would check it out. I'm curious, Sam. We've been doing a lot of work with our instructors in the last, I'd say, 2 to 3 years to try to understand a bit of a phenomenon that's arisen in relation to instructor reactions to concepts of access, accommodation, etc. And it's interesting because, I don't know, to me, cognitive support is just one of the most structural approaches that one could take to lessening load, making things clearer, helping with a number of disability types, helping with non-disability types, right? Like there's a real functional structural approach that one can take to making cognitive support in assessment, learning, whatever, in Brightspace, all that much better. And I'm curious if you folks have been kind of playing around with or working with institutions or working within your own tools to help instructors understand just sort of deciphering and demystifying some of the deeply held beliefs that, so I look at cognitive support and my immediate reaction from the instructor perspective is like, ugh, it's yet another me having to clarify that this does not mean lessening academic rigor. There's sort of this real boundedness within higher education where difficulty in understanding is equated with rigorous learning, and that rigorous learning is the way to, and in some ways I agree with it. I agree that, you know, pushing people to the point of expanding their comfort around what they don't know is really a necessary thing for learning. I might also say that, like, if you were talking to a person who is a second language learner, I wouldn't give them something in their non-native language and say, okay, your struggle through this document is going to make you a more rigorous learner. I would say it's probably going to be a more rigorous learning experience if it's in your native language as opposed to your second language, because you're going to spend so much time just trying to understand the language. So I'm just sort of thinking about this increasing tension that we've been experiencing, where, especially with the integration of technology, there's this perception that technology and accessibility via technology is sort of removing a lot or taking away the power that instructors are feeling that they have over their class as it relates to academic rigor, integrity, et cetera, et cetera. Some of which I think is actually quite valid, and some of which I think is perception and belief that is enabled by structural inequity. So that's a big question, but it's just sort of what I've been thinking about as I've been listening to you, Sam. And I know that you're obviously an expert in the work that you're doing, and I'm curious if there's an approach that you've been emulating where maybe it's in how we're communicating the functionality of the tool, or communicating what it does versus what it doesn't do, so that folks don't feel like their content is at risk, for example, of being, I use these terms with full recognition of how terrible they are, but like the term like watered down is something that we hear a lot when we start to introduce cognitive support functionality, like cognitive support mechanisms that can help the information become a little bit easier to parse for people. So big question. Don't know if that was clear, but
Yeah. Okay, I can answer to the extent to which I could understand. My cognition allows, let me say. Um, Point number one is that we don't just create any tools or features in a vacuum. There are a lot of educators in D2L, but still we always look to real life in the field feedback and research. Quite a lot of research is done to think about what we need to build next so that it goes out and solves a problem or enhances something that's being done. The focus is not on the tool or the feature. The focus is on what kind of enhancement are we doing to the teaching and learning experience. We always talk about teaching and learning. Even in the title that was sent out in the invite, it was there. Then I wanted to reduce the cognitive load and just made it learning. But you're right. This needs a mindset shift, and we need to do, I don't know, thought leadership exercises.
yeah, I think that's what it is. I think that's
Webinars
is
and
like it's a thought leadership exercise. It's not actually anything to do with how the tools are being built, who the end users are in mind, because all that work has been done, I think, exceptionally well. I think where we're finding this increasing divergence around people's perceptions and their thoughts around what is happening in
and
the
we are not
space.
even talking AI.
Right? I
Not
mean,
even talking
the
AI.
moment you bring it into the conversation, which very quickly all of my conversations end up devolving to conversations around AI, it completely derails the entire. Yet again, I feel like the recurrent issues to do with accessibility and accommodation get backburnered because the context keeps changing and frightening people.
I must thank Dr. Aggie Jimon here because initially we had included that, then she just came up with the warning that it's going to hijack everything. We might have to do a separate session. So,
Smart Aggie.
yeah. Oh, sorry. I
Anyway,
think
that was just something that I've been like sort of juggling with in research we've been doing for the past 3 years, is just we keep strengthening our foundation in many ways around these practices, and yet I'm finding like much more divergence than there has been in previous years. It's being driven by a lot of these overarching contexts that you were describing, Sam.
right. I just wanted to thank you,
Yeah,
Catherine.
of course.
I just wanted to point that there will be two slides um, in like having resources, one of them with all kinds of courses and the other one with documents that'll come your way. And I would like to now pass it back to Karen to wrap it up. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thanks for doing such an awesome job with all that stuff. I wasn't sure if everything was going to fit, but you're a ninja and did it. Um, thanks everybody for coming and doing our own little version of IDPD celebration and wrapping up the year because I can't believe it's December. It's kind of Christmas is sneaking up on me for sure. I hope everybody has a super holiday, and we'll see you guys in February because January, I don't know, we never end up having a meeting because people are just getting back from their holidays and all those fun things. So it'll be February that we'll see you guys again, and um, and looking forward to seeing you guys again then. Until next year. I know. Have a good holiday.
Happy holidays and thank you for
Yeah.
joining.
Yeah.